Well, most of the dinosaurs died, not all in the detonation but in the bad things which came after the war, especially in the nuclear winter and in the fallout. Nearly all dinosaurs and reptilians were dead within the next 20 years. Some of them, especially those in the oceans, were able to survive for the next 200 to 300 years even in this changed world, but these species also died, because the climate had changed. The nuclear winter ended after 200 years, but it was colder on Earth than before. Despite the cataclysm, some species were able to survive: fish, like the sharks, birds, little creepy mammals, your ancestors, various reptiles like crocodiles. And there was a special kind of small but advanced dinosaurs which had developed together with the last large animal reptilians like the species you call Tyrannosaurus. This new reptile was walking on two legs and looked a little bit like your reconstruction of an iguanodon. It originated in this family, but it was smaller, around 1.50 meters tall, with some humanoid features, a changed bone structure, a larger skull and brain, a hand with a thumb which was able to grab things, a different organism and digestion, advanced eyes in the middle of the head like your eyes, and most important, with a new and better brain structure. This was our direct ancestor. There are theories that the radiation from the bomb took part in the mutations of the organism of this new breed, but this is not proven. Nevertheless, this little humanoid-like dinosaur evolved during the following 30 million years. As I have said earlier, a species need generally more time to evolve than you think. If the evolution is not artificially induced like in your case, from an animal to a more or less thinking being, these beings were intelligent enough not to die in the next millions of years, because they learned to change their behavior. They lived in caves instead in the cold nature, and they learned to use stones and branches as first tools and the use of fire as help to warm them, especially to warm their blood, which is very important for our kind to survive. During the next 20 million years this species was divided by nature into 27 subspecies. Unfortunately, former reptilian species were prone to divide themselves in a more or less illogical way into subspecies during the evolution process. You can clearly see this in the unnecessary high number of animal dinosaur species in earlier times, and there were many, mainly primitive, wars between this subspecies for dominance. Well, nature was not very friendly to us, and as far as we know from the 27 subspecies, 24 were extinct in primitive wars and in evolution, because their organism and mind was not developed enough to survive, and, as main reason, they were not able to change their blood temperature in the right way if the climate changed. 50 million years after the war and after the end of dinosaurs, only 3, now also technological, advanced reptilian species were remaining on this planet together with all the other lower animals. Through natural and artificial crossbreeding these 3 species were united to one reptilian species, and through the invention of genetic manipulations, we were able to eliminate the dividing prone genes in our genetic structure. According to our history and belief, this was the time when our final reptilian race, as you see me today, was created by use of genetic engineering. This was around 10 million years ago, and our evolution nearly stopped at this point. Well, actually there were some minor changes in our look toward a more humanoid and mammal-like appearance during the coming ages, but we have not divided again into subspecies. You see, we are a very old race in comparison to your kind, which was jumping around as small monkey-like animals in the trees at this time while we invented technology, colonized other planets of this system, built large cities on this planet, which disappeared without a trace in the ages, and engineered our own genes while your genes were still those of animals. 10 million years ago the small simians started to grow, and they came down from the trees to the ground, again because of the change of the climate, especially on the so-called African continent, but they evolved very slow, as it is normal for a mammal, and if nothing extraordinary had happened to your kind, we wouldn't be able to sit here and talk, because I would sit in my comfortable modern house and you would sit in your cave clothed with fur and trying to discover the secrets of fire, or you would maybe sit in one of our zoos. But the things had developed differently, and you believe now you are the crown of creation and you can sit in the modern house, and we must hide and live beneath the earth and in remote areas. Around 1,5 million years ago, another alien species arrived at Earth. It was surprisingly the first species since over 60 million years. This would be more surprising for you if you would know how many different species are today here. The interest of this humanoid species, you call them Elohim today, was not the raw material and the copper, it were to our astonishment the unadvanced taped humanoids. Despite of our presence on this planet, the aliens decided to help the apes to evolve a little bit faster, to serve them in the future as some kind of slave race in coming wars. The fate of your species was not really important for us, but we didn't like the presence of the Elohim on our planet, and they didn't like our presence on their new galactic zoo planet, and so your 6th and 7th creation was the reason for a war between us and them. You can read about that war, for example, partly in the book you call Bible, in a very strange way of description. The real truth is a very long and difficult story. Should I continue?
Question: No, not now. I've made some notes about your history and now I have some questions.
Answer: please ask.
Question: First of all, you handle with a very large time scale. You claim that your primitive ancestors lived together with the dinosaurs, survived the, as you called it, artificial cataclysm and evolved then over 40 million years, and your evolution was completed 10 million years ago. This sounds very unbelievable to me. Can you say something to this?
Answer: I understand that this must sound absolutely unbelievable to you, because you are a young and genetically engineered species. Your historical horizon ends at a scale of just some thousands of years and you think this is right. But it isn't. This is impossible. Your programmed mind is obviously not able to handle with such large time scales. Our evolution time may seem incredible long to you, but this is in fact the original way of nature. Remember, your early mammal ancestors developed together with dinosaurs and they survived the bomb like us. They evolved slowly during the next millions of years and they divided into various species and shapes, some of them larger, some of them smaller. This is evolution of the body, but what about their mind and intelligence? They were simple animals. The mammals evolved since, let us say, 150 millions of years, but only in the last 2 to 3 millions of years they were able to become intelligent and thinking. And within this small period beings like you were created. From nature? 148 millions of years time for the evolution of animal-like mammals. 2 millions of years time for the development of, more or less, intelligent beings like you? Ask yourself, do you really think this accelerated evolution is natural? Then your species is more ignorant than I've thought.
Question: What have happened with both alien species?
Answer: we don't know exactly. The surviving humanoids on Earth obviously died in the years after the bomb and others of their kind, and the reptilians never came back to Earth, as far as we know. Concerning the reptilian aliens, there is a possibility that it was physically impossible for them to return, because the matter between bubbles is sometimes in rapid movement. The current theory is that both species had ceased to exist during the millions of years.
Question: You've mentioned skeletons of your kind. How can it be that human scientists haven't found any trace of you and your ancestors if you really lived for such a long time on this planet? We have found many skeletons of primitive dinosaurs, but none of an advanced reptilian being with a larger skull and brain and a hand with a thumb as you have described it before.
Answer: yes, you have. But your great scientists were not able to reconstruct the skeletons completely, because they wanted to reconstruct reptilian animals, not intelligent beings. You would laugh if you would know how many of the, especially small, saurian skeletons in your museums are totally wrong constructions of never-existing beings, because you used many bones which didn't really belong together, and sometimes you made artificial bones. If something was missing you needed to construct an animal saurian. Many of your scientists are aware of this problem, but they don't make it public, because they can't explain it, and they claim that the right bones were just missing and their reconstruction is right. Many bones of us were used for iguanodon reconstructions, For example, the hands with the visible thumb. Look at an iguanodon in a museum and you will see that I'm right. A scientist in the country you call United States had built a nearly correct skeleton of our kind some years ago, but the local government, which is partly aware of our existence, confiscated the reconstruction. As we live today, and since thousands of years, nearly completely beneath the earth, you will not find any